Reverend Amber Rose Dullea is a licensed clinical social worker and psychotherapist, an award-winning speaker, and author. She brings compassion, humor, and a whole lot of knowledge from a diverse background that includes whole systems designer, licensed massage therapist, interfaith minister, financial planner, success coach, and educator to inspire and support people to thrive by finding and living their wow. As we wrap up our theme about clearing the clutter from our minds, just how do we stop and redirect our thoughts when those thoughts are no longer serving us, or when our thoughts are overwhelming? Humans have the capacity to observe ourselves, and in that space of observation, we have a chance to make change. As a new thought minister, Reverend Amber Rose pulls together new thought and psychology perspectives, helping us realign with our higher self. Today, we will hear stories and learn tools to rid our negative thinking and live our best life. Please welcome Amber Rose Dullea.
Wow, I want to meet that person. That's kind of fun. Well, last time I was here, I was talking about letting go. For those of you who might remember the don't let go of the raft, but let go in the water. Now I'm going to be talking a little bit about what does it mean to let go of your thoughts and how can we do that. So I think the biggest thing to take away from today is that we have the ability to choose. We have the ability to focus on the negative, or we have the ability to focus on the positive. Oftentimes people will say, oh, you just have to think different, right? Get rid of all those negative thoughts and just think positively. Well, that's lovely. It's a great idea. But how? And that's what I want to talk about today. How do you do that? From my early work, one of the things that I like to talk about are the 3 keys that are available to us for healing. And for those of you who don't know my work, healing to me is recognizing wholeness that already exists. It's not a fixing something. It's recognizing the wholeness that is already there. So I see that there are 3 keys to being able to do that. And what I'm going to talk about today is more than that. We're going to talk about the 3 keys. We're going to talk about how do you actually unwind from the negative thoughts. And we're going to be looking at a couple of different things that once you look at those negative thoughts, how do you move them to the positive? So that's a preview. So the 3 keys, the first one is intention. So if you want to, hello everybody. I forgot that we don't have it here. We're over here. The 3 keys really help set up us being able to do the work. So the first one is your intention. What is your intention in this moment? Are you wanting to come from love, be in a place of peace, maybe have some joy? What is that positive? What is that you are wanting to create in your life? So that's the intention. Well, as my father used to say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You got to get beyond intention, and you have to get to the next part, which is awareness. How do you actually begin to develop the awareness so that you can change? And that's what we're going to talk about today. And then third is action. It's great to have all this wonderful stuff in our head, oh, I am at peace, I know everything, right? But then how do we act in the world? What actually happens out there? So that's what we're going to be talking about as well. So for those of you who like, there's 3 keys: intention, awareness, and action. So let's start with intention. I'm gonna share a little story here because I think I've already had 2 people tell me in the crowd today that they're starting something new. And I think that that is one of the places that I can talk very from a very personal perspective. What does it mean when you step out and decide to learn something new, right? What is it when you take away the comfy zone that you hang out on every day and you go, okay, this is new, this is different, right? For me, what happens or what has happened is anxiety. That lovely emotion of, oh, what was I thinking? I decided to go back to school in my 50s. Why? Why did I choose my most difficult master's degree to be at the end, towards the end of my life instead of at the beginning, right? So that anxiety comes from somewhere though, right? If I were well, actually, I was going to say if I were a child, I'd know how to learn. But you look at kids too, and they're like, this is scary, right? This might be exciting for a while, but then you get into something and you're like, how was I supposed to learn this? I don't know how to do this. This is that, right? And so those negative thoughts can begin to build on each other, and they become beliefs. They become those things that just hang out in the back of our head all the time, and we're not really aware of them. So to bring them into awareness gives us the option to be able to change it. If you leave it stuck in your body, in your mind back there somewhere, then you don't have an option to be able to shift it. In New Thought, we talk about denials. And I think that's a great way to think about it, is that what we want to do is to take the negative, the things that are no longer serving you, and be able to say, that's not true anymore. That's not going to make my world go that direction. I don't want to do that. Again, that's nice. Wouldn't it be nice if we could just pull out those thoughts and go, oh, all gone, all gone? But that's not how it works. It takes work to be able to do this. So the denials in New Thought is being able to look at our thoughts and be able to make changes to them. In psychology, in something called cognitive behavioral therapy, they talk about it as being able to look through your thoughts, see what kind of feelings come up with those thoughts, and then what are the actions that happen. Same thing as a New Thought. It's amazing. This stuff, when it's true, shows up everywhere. So if you have something happen, you have a thought, and you're in a place where you're able to begin to explore these thoughts, you're taking the time to explore what is it that's making me feel, oh, I'm in school now. What the heck was I thinking? It's like, okay, so what's really happening here? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm in a new situation. I'm learning, which means that what I used to know isn't necessarily going to be my truth coming forward. That's scary. At least it can be. At least it is for me. Just sort of. So what can you do is to be able to look at those thoughts and say, is that really true? Is that the most realistic thought that I can have? So let's take learning something new. I'm going to fail, right? Nice thought. Is it really true? Well, look at my past. Have I been able to learn something before? Well, yeah, I have. Okay, so you didn't fail then. Why are you assuming you're failing now? Well, I don't know. I'm not sure. Why would I think that? Maybe I'm not gonna fail. What I might grow. Okay, so what if I think I might grow? How does that feel? Right? That first one was like, the next one is I might grow. There's an opening in my heart that I feel opening up. Like, oh, this is an adventure. I'm not necessarily going to fail. I'm going to find something new here. You see what I mean? Like kind of looking at those thoughts, re-examining them. Well, just because we're in church, I thought I'd mention the Bible real quick. There's something in the Bible that I really like. When two or more are gathered, right? Sometimes it's very difficult to have this conversation with yourself without having a friend or somebody else witnessing with you, seeing what you're going through, being able to share their own story. So I encourage people to find friends, find spiritual advisors, find therapists, whoever that person is, and be able to expose those thoughts and to get the other perspective of like, oh, that you're not going to fail. Come on, you've done this and this and this. Why would you? You're not going to fail. So what's more likely? And that dialogue can make a huge difference. So doing it on your own is great, but I find it's faster and more. It has more ease when you do it with somebody else because you don't have to figure out, jump out of yourself and look at yourself. You got somebody else doing that for you. So the thoughts create the feelings that create the actions, right? So the feeling is, oh, I'm really nervous about doing this. I'm going to fail. This is not going to be okay. I just know it. To I might learn something new. I might grow. So if I'm going to grow, I'm going to actually do this. My action, instead of being scared and maybe uh, collapsing around myself because I'm scared to be in this new situation, I'm not as open to learning or to knowing what's happening around me because I'm scared. Notice the body language here, just like really scared. Now I might grow in this experience. This is an adventure. I can do this, right? So my response is going to be, wow, I could maybe do this. I'm going to be open to what I hear and what I learn. That's a very different way of being in a learning experience. And all of that comes from our tapes, our thoughts that are in our heads that are always there. They just kind of hang out in the background. We get triggered by this or we get triggered by that, and we're like, ah. So taking time to be able to do this I think is really helpful. And so you work through, in the new thought words, denials. You take those thoughts that are no longer working and you deny them. You say, that is no longer true. That is not true. Then you get to the affirmations, which we're not going to talk a whole lot today about, but then you get to what's positive. What's that thing that you want to move towards? But right now we're just unwinding the negative. So you have that thinking that you can do. I encourage people to use journals a lot. I think especially if you're not doing it with another person, the journal can be that reflective place. The other thing that you can do is mindful meditation. Now, there's a million different ways of doing meditation. So let me just explain what this particular one is. This is being able to watch your thoughts go by, not hooking you, not getting attached to the thoughts, but actually allowing them to go by. So a classic one is the river flowing by. And your thoughts, as they come into your head, see them as leaves and see them just gently going down the river. It's just a leaf. It's not the truth. It's just a thought. Just a thought. We don't get hooked by those leaves that go by. What this does is it gives you the moment to be able to choose another thought, to not be a victim of your thinking, but to be actually in charge of it, or at least open to seeing that there's something different that might work. The next piece that I think is really important is in the actual title of my talk, which is to leave them alone, right? So first, you kind of have to understand what they are, how they're making you feel, how that is interpreted into action, undo some of that, begin to have new thoughts. Amazing that we are in a new thought church. You have new thoughts, and those new thoughts help you to move into a new way of being. Okay. So when those thoughts come up and you don't have time to sit with your journal and you're not doing all that work right away, you just kind of go, oh, that's a leaf on the river. That's an interesting thought. I don't need that one. I'll just let it go by. Having that ability to just leave it alone. Don't worry over it. Oh, I'm thinking that again. I should stop thinking that. That's a bad thought. That doesn't help. It doesn't work. It doesn't make you feel any better. Doesn't make you want to live your wow. It makes you want to get into that ball and just kind of go, okay, I'm not going to be able to do anything. So what do you do instead? You feed the positive. There's a great story. You probably have all heard it before, but you have two wolves, the bad wolf and the good wolf, right? How do you work with these two wolves? You think of them as negative and positive thoughts in your head. You feed the positive and you leave alone the negative. You don't feed it. You don't give it a lot of food for their thoughts. We let those food go away. So feeding the positive, I want to cover a couple of things. One is having affirmations. The affirmations are a great way to keep that positive in your mind, right? A lot of people will put them up in their bathrooms to remind themselves, in the car to remind yourself. Affirmations are great. And if you don't believe them, they're not all that helpful, right? So that's why that work of getting the negatives out of there is so important, so that you can say, oh, this affirmation I actually can believe in. I am able to learn. I'm able to learn. Well, I have to get rid of the thought that I'm in my 50s and now I'm going back to school, and I had a car accident and my brain stopped working for a while there, and now I'm going back to school. I can learn. See how different that is? Same situation, different thinking that you're bringing with it. So what if affirmations aren't working for you? The denials help, but there's also a couple of other tools that I'd like to share with you today. One of them is looking at your positives. So what are your strengths? What are your strengths? Think about that right now. Just what comes to mind. And what if those strengths grew because you fed them? I can learn. I'm able to study. I can organize things. That's a strength. I'm curious. That makes me want to learn. That's a strength, right?
That's a superpower.
That's a superpower. I like that. So if you are able to focus on your strengths, on your positives, what happens? Anybody?
Success.
Success happens, right? Right? We build on those positives and they become more and more the thoughts that we have. They become more and more the feelings that come from those thoughts get built up. And the actions that we take are not from this place, but they're from this place. Fear, it's a lovely thing, isn't it?
No.
It comes up and it's like, but I'm not going to get everything I want. I'm not going to be the person that I thought I would be. All those fears that come up. What do? Go back. Look at those thoughts. Are they real? Well, if there's a dinosaur chasing you and it's carnivorous, then you probably fear is going to be your friend right now. It's a good thing. It's not always a bad thing. It warns us that I need to do something different than what I've been doing. That's where fear can become your friend and not your foe. But oftentimes, at least for me, I know that the fear is not my friend. The fear is that little voice in my head that's telling me all the negative stuff, that wolf that I don't want to feed. So there's something called affirmations, which I find very helpful because our brains are incredibly productive. That's a good word for it. They're very productive. We can begin to see the positive if we're always thinking about the positive. So the idea behind affirmations, it's Noah St. John, I believe, is the person who has developed this, and I could find resources if anybody's interested in it. But I just like his idea that you ask the question, why? Why am I such a great learner? Why? Why am I kind? Why am I excited about life? Why do I want to be in community? Why do I want to learn? And what begins to happen is as you ask that question, answers will come forward, right? Why am I such a great learner? Oh, we can go back to the affirmations, right?
Curiosity.
Curiosity, right. I love to learn because I'm curious. That's why I'm a good learner. I'm a good learner because I know I don't know everything. And not that I want to be a know-it-all, but from my background, you can see I get curious about a lot of different things, and then I go down those roads, right? It's very interesting to me. Oh, this is something new. This is different. That's exciting to me. That's why I like to learn, right? So if you begin to ask that question for yourself, to those things that particularly bring you into that space of fear or anxiety or negative thoughts, begin to bring that with you. And you're, why? Why am I a good speaker? That's a good question. Because I love to connect with people. That's one answer, right? Because I worked at it. I spent years at Toastmasters and got all kinds of tools and stuff like that, right? What is that answer for you around that area that you're feeling closed in around? So anybody here notice that we're in kind of a fear-based place in our country right now? You noticed? Okay. So this is a good place for you to use this same sort of thing. What are the thoughts that are in our heads about our community, about the nation, about the world? So it's not just always personal. As I said in my first book, personal and planetary healing, they're connected, right? So as we are able to do the work on the personal, we're then able to focus on the planetary, right? And it's the same tools. We have to be able to look at the negative, expose it for what it is, shift it, and allow yourself to have more positive thoughts. What's possible? Anybody here ever felt frozen, like you just didn't know what to do? Okay, I'm hoping to see all the hands. All the hands? Okay. The reason why we feel frozen and don't know what to do is that we're in fear and we're anxious and we don't have the tools to be able to get out of that. So these are the tools. Take a look at the negative. Is it really true? Are you really whatever that is? Okay. Watch those thoughts go by on the river. Don't grab hold of them and say, okay, this is the thought that's going to define me. Oh, it's a thought. It's not reality. Feed the positive. Feed that which you already know is true about you and begin to dive in even deeper into recognizing the wholeness that already exists within you, right? We're not fixing, we're not changing, we're diving deeper. So with that, I'd like to say, I hope each of you got a little something out of this. I really enjoyed being here today and talking to everybody. And if you have a negative thought, take a look at it. See what you might be able to see that is more true. Let it go and bring in the positive. Thank you very much.